Born. It's twins, though not identical twins. And that's not because these Cupra Borns are in different colours, obviously. This is our long-termer Cupra Born. It's fitted with an interior package, has Aurora Blue exterior paint, 19-inch wheels wrapped in economy rubber. Then we have this Glacial White Born, which is fitted with a performance package, and that brings adaptive suspension, bigger wheels and sportier rubber. So two things we want to find out today. Which is the best Cupra Born spec that we would recommend? And B, is the Cupra Born a genuine electric hot hatch? We're going to find that out, but first, some shock news about the Born's pricing. Chasing cars, honest reviews of your next car.
Brought to you by
Budget Direct.
So when the Born came out a couple or so years ago, it was around $60,000 RRP. Now, in our last video on the Born, covering our long-termer, we kind of said the price, well, look, it's highest, but in the context of its rivals, it's kind of reasonably priced without setting any benchmarks. But just recently, and since we did that last review, Cupra has now announced some pretty fantastic drive-away pricing until the end of March for the Born. So, forget the $59,990, it's now $49,990 drive-away, and that includes the interior package that's in this car, which is $2,900. So savings, depending on your state, are somewhere between $16,000 and $19,000. That's absolutely huge. Let's look at the specs in more detail, starting with wheel type packages. So our Cupra Born long-termer, 19-inch wheels that are standard, wrapped in Continental Eco Contact 5 rubber, and then the Born with the performance pack. So bigger 20-inch wheels, and they're fitted with Michelin Pilot Sport tyres, so pretty serious, lower profile, 20 millimeters wider, and as mentioned earlier, the performance package comes with adjustable dampers. Both Borns feature the same battery, 82 kilowatt hours, 77 usable, and feature a rear electric motor with 170 kilowatts and 310 newton meters. And at the back, rear drum brakes. We've been living with the Cupra Born for more than 2 months now. So what are the niggles that we've been experiencing? Well, still not happy that there's no memory function for the electric driver's seat, because when my wife and I keep swapping in and out of this car, we do have different driving positions. So that's always just a little bit of a pain. The touchscreen infotainment system, look, it's still not entirely intuitive. And the temperature controls, they don't illuminate at night or when you're in tunnels, so they're really difficult to see. I'm sure that will be improved with an update to the Born. We get some of these random notices that pop up as well. You can even see one here now saying, currently unable to charge the mobile device. Please remove all other items from the mobile telephone tray. Well, there is only one thing in the tray, and that is a telephone. So I'm not sure what that's all about. We even get warnings about making sure we're paying attention to traffic conditions. Pretty sure we're always doing that, so that's a little bit annoying as well. Okay, then there's no auto tailgate. That's definitely a persistent annoyance. And a little minor quibble here on the steering wheel, the capacitive buttons. It's really so easy to accidentally touch them as you're driving along. Those negatives are not really deal breakers in our view. There's so much more to love about the Cupra Born. So what are key things that we've loved about this long-termer? Well, seat comfort is absolutely brilliant, front and rear. The four-seater layout forced by the interior package or performance package options, well, that hasn't been an issue at all for our four-person family. That includes 2 boys. Then there's just the way that this car drives. It's smooth, unobtrusive, effortless. For me, it's got enough performance that you need, unless you're an absolute petrol head or electric head, as it were. And then there's the range. So Cupra claims 511 kilometers for the Cupra Born, and you know what? We've got really close to that. We've had about 500 kilometers, nearly 510 kilometers of range that we've got out of this battery. Yes, it's a big battery, but you know what? This is an EV you can live with, where you're not worrying about charging it every single day. We're starting off in our long-termer on the 19-inch wheels, so there's still a firmness to the right. Now, maybe that's part of the engineering proposition because they're advertising this as a hot hatch, or maybe it's also about managing the big weight that's underneath this car with that battery, 82 kilowatt hours. That's pretty sizable. and we know that the Born weighs 1.9 tons. That's a big weight for a 5-door hatch. But the damping is very good actually. So this is a car that we found very easy to live with every day, and it'll be interesting to see how the Born goes on those bigger tyres, but we'll come to that next. So a lot has been said about the Born's performance in the context of it being a hot hatch or not, and it is true. Look, 7 seconds 0 to 100, that's nothing to write home about. But there's another interesting stat associated with that, and that is the 0 to 50 kilometers an hour claim, which is 2.8 seconds. That's pretty rapid for a little hatchback. And the important thing about that is that that's what helps make this Born a terrific urban car. Because let's say if we're just, we're not going to do a standing start because that's not real world testing. We're just going to drive along, say we're in 50, so we're just coming up into an 80 zone. We've seen a gap in the traffic, and yeah, look at that. That's a really nice burst of acceleration. We're not even in any of the available performance modes that you get with the Born. We have drive mode and B mode, so you can switch between these. If you have the Born in D, it rolls along a bit more naturally, just like your everyday combustion car, or you can put it in B and that gives you regen braking. I've got to say, this is the mode I pretty much drive this Born in all the time because it means far less use of the brake pedal. You just accelerate along like this, got some traffic lights coming up, roll off the accelerator, then you can see the car scrubs off a nice bit of speed. So it's only really just in those last few meters, is like you're coming up to a junction or traffic lights where you actually have to start applying the brake pedal. Not one pedal driving, just to confirm the car will generally keep rolling forward. It won't stay still unless you have your foot on the brake pedal. I like one pedal driving, but I haven't found it much of a bugbear with my Born experience. The freeway ride is particularly excellent on this Born. We've done quite a few trips involving several hundred kilometers, and this is an electric hatchback that doesn't feel out of its depth on long journeys. Really nice supple ride. So again, it'll be interesting to see how the performance pack version goes. The steering, it's light, it's crisp, it's precise. Actually really reminds me of the excellent steering of my Volkswagen Up city car. All right, it's time to jump into the Born performance package. We're now in the performance package Born, and we're just going to make a couple of adjustments here as well, trying to find out if it's a hot hatch. So we want to go into the performance, so that will firm up the dampers. General comment on the driving position, I quite like it. I wouldn't mind the seat going just a little bit lower, just to make it feel that bit sportier. All right, let's see what's going on with these bigger wheels, sportier, wider rubber, coming into the hairpin section now. We mentioned that it's 1.9 tons, this Born, but a lot of the weight is down low in the car, so that's great for the centre of gravity. And so the Born is actually quite handy through these little hairpin sections. Look at that, really noticing better traction and generally better lateral grip from these Michelin Pilot Sport tyres compared with the Eco Rubber on our long-termer Born. Here we go, another hairpin. We are having to use the brakes a little bit more. I'm just actually switching to that B mode to get that regen. So I mentioned we had drum brakes on the rear, and you're thinking, what are drum brakes doing on a hot hatch? Yeah, a bit of surprising, but I guess in Cupra's defence, the regen braking does do some of the braking for you. So like, I'm not braking now, just with tipping out, tipping it into this hairpin. Now I'm applying a bit of the brakes. That steering still lovely and light and crisp, accurate. Another hairpin. All right, let's gun it.
That's cool.
Almost too much grip there. So the sportier rubber does bring you some additional cornering performance. but there are some downsides for everyday driving. So it does bring another level of stiffness to the Born's ride, and you can feel that very much under the wheels rather than the chassis. So it does feel that that's coming from the heavier 20-inch wheels that's on it, and generally it's a little thumpier over potholes than the Born on 19s, but not in a deal-breaking kind of way. Just one other negative with the bigger wheel tyre package: the Michelin's grippier but also higher rolling resistance than the Eco-Focus Continentals on the regular Born, so the range claim does reduce from 511 kilometers to 475, and we've noticed from spending more time with the performance package Born that you definitely have less range generally than our long-termer. One thing you really notice about the handling though is that this is most definitely a rear drive car. You can really feel the Born being pushed out of the corners, though the stability control makes things a little bit messy on exit. So the Born is kind of fun, it's just not addictive necessarily in the way that a Golf GTI is, or even a Focus ST. Unfortunately, you can't buy the Ford these days, at least brand new. The Cupra Born is still one of the best EVs we've driven, even if it's more stylish electric 5-door than electric hot hatch. Which spec of these would I go for? Well, to be honest, I'll stick with our long-termer. Just prefer the everyday ride quality on those 19s, and I do like that Aurora Blue, I've got to say. Now, pricing, I really would love it when Cupra brings the sportier VZ performance model. That's due around April 2025. If they could reposition the Cupra Born around 50,000 RRP, that would be great, and that would allow them to keep the VZ under 70,000 RRP, because otherwise anything above that is starting to get very pricey for a hot hatch. Over to the Spanish brand for that pricing proposition. For now, thanks for watching Chasing Cars.